Welcome to 2016 presidential candidate interviews. Today I'm interviewing a guy named Jim Hayden. He's running for president in the Constitution Party. Hello, Jim, and welcome to the 2016 presidential candidate interviews. Thanks for taking your time here. We're going to start with some kind of icebreaker questions and then do some serious questions. So how are you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing good, Lee. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So just to kind of break the ice, can you describe your family and your home life, wife, kids, pets?
Well, okay. To start with, my dad was a chemical engineer with DuPont, and we got transferred around quite a bit growing up. Then after I graduated from high school, I went in the United States Marine Corps, where I served in Vietnam in the infantry. And after I came back, I stayed in the Corps for another couple years until I was injured and told to retire. They wasn't given it back in. And I was turned over to the VA for medical care. And for about 30 years, I fought the VA for disability for my combat injury. And so during that period of time, over the last 40 years, I've been a veterans advocate fighting for veterans' rights. And as far as jobs go, I've done everything from washing dishes to construction. And I even started up two of my own businesses. One was birds. I sold exotic birds like cockatoos. What?
Sounds like you've been you had a lot of jobs, and you can probably relate to a lot of the citizens because it's not like you. Another question. Just another kind of icebreaker question. Do you have any favorite restaurants or places to eat? Any favorite junk food, anything like that?
Not really. I prefer home cooking.
What's one of your favorite meals that you or your wife makes?
Well, it's a toss of a coin between her chicken and hominy and her. I'm trying to think. I guess my favorites are her chicken and hominy.
That sounds good. Just one more crazy question. Any favorite TV shows or movies?
Actually, I don't watch that much TV. I get most of my entertainment over the internet.
Good. Now for some serious questions. So put on your seatbelt. Here we go. Why are you running for president? In a nutshell.
Well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, our veterans need somebody in Washington that's actually going to speak for them. And that includes Social Security, not just the VA, but it also includes Social Security. It also includes tax relief, both for the employee and employers, because the way the system's been going is it puts Americans behind the eight ball. And the government has geared everything so that the American public doesn't really have a say in what goes on in Washington. And that's why we've got so many out-of-control agencies within the government that are totally unconstitutional, if you want to be perfectly frank and honest about it. Starting with the IRS. IRS is totally unconstitutional. Under the Constitution, only states have the constitutional authority to uphold federal law. That eliminates all those federal guys walking around with guns and badges. So,
another question just to kind of help, now that you've told us why you're running, this question might help explain what you can do to accomplish what you want to do. The next question is, name some unique abilities you would bring to the office of president. What's in your what abilities do you have to accomplish what you want to get done?
Okay. Well, to start with, as a veterans' rights advocate, I've been working with and sometimes against the Congress. So I'm very familiar with how the Congress works and the silly political games they play in Washington. As a businessman, I know how to operate a business and operate the government a lot like a business. Because it's the same. You know, if somebody does their job and performs their job the way they're supposed to, then you give them a promotion. If somebody's slow off and they don't, you fire them.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any presidents that you would want to emulate or be like? Do you have any favorite presidents of the United States?
Since we've never had them reign as a president, no. I'm unique, you know. I am just totally unique.
Okay. Are there any presidents that you definitely would not want to be like?
Yeah, the one that's currently in office.
Okay, Mr. Obama. Okay. Well, you'll be a very stark contrast to Mr. Obama.
Oh yeah. Opposite.
Here's one I think you're probably going to have a lot to talk about here. Are there any functions of government you would like to cut or abolish, and why?
Okay. All the functions of government that are totally unconstitutional, starting with the IRS, the law enforcement agencies of the federal government. All those are totally unconstitutional. We've got government back under the strict limitations of the Constitution. Because as long as the government is allowed to operate outside the Constitution, you know, the American people are just going to continue getting screwed over.
Right.
And we put somebody in office that has the backbone to sit down and say, okay, this is unconstitutional. We're no longer going to do this.
Okay.
And not like some people where they replace it with something else that's even more unconstitutional.
Okay. That might lead into my next question. Are there any areas of government you would like to add to or increase, and why?
No.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. Because if we increase the government as it is, all we're doing is creating more unconstitutional agencies and departments.
Okay.
The idea is we've got to reduce the size of government, get government out of people's personal lives and out of people's personal business, and restore faith in our government.
All right. You've probably kind of already answered this question, but let's go a little bit deeper. Describe your stance on taxes. Do you have any, I'm assuming you probably have some strong opinions on taxes.
Well, the collection of taxes is under the 16th Amendment, which allows for the collection of taxes from personal income. It does not you can collect taxes as long as you do not violate a person's constitutional rights under the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments. Okay. Saying that, current tax system's unconstitutional. The current tax that people are pushing, the fair tax or the federal income, federal sales tax, is just as unconstitutional for the same reasons. You cannot ask people for private, personal financial information or documentation without a warrant, even if it's like taxes. So the only fair tax is what I call the equal pay tax.
Can you describe the equal pay tax?
Under the equal pay tax, the government at all levels determines exactly how much money they need to operate over the following year. That amount of money is divided equally by the number of taxpayers living within their jurisdiction. What that means to the everyday taxpayer is very simple. It don't matter how much money you make or don't make. You still pay the same amount of taxes. If you get a pay increase, your taxes don't change. You still still charge the same amount of taxes.
That makes sense.
Now the equal pay tax will replace all current taxes. including all the hidden taxes, like fuel taxes, luxury taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, all the other taxes we're hit with.
Okay. Sounds good. Kind of a change, major change in topic now. What is your stance on the abortion, pro-choice, that whole hornet's nest? Do you have an opinion on that?
Oh, yeah. Biologically speaking, every human being, every human life begins at the moment of conception. Or under the 5th and the 14th Amendments, every person has the right to life from the moment of conception.
Okay.
Which basically means all we got to do is start enforcing our laws. Under the law, murder is a crime. Well, if human life begins at the moment of conception and everything after that is just a development of human growth, then that's murder.
Right.
It's not legal to murder people, no matter what you call it.
Okay. Next question. What role should the United States military play in the world? Should we be intervening? Should we be bombing things? Should we mind our own business? Anything along those lines. What role does the military play in the world?
Basically, our Navy and our Marines are more than capable of taking care of American interests overseas.
Okay.
The Army and the Air Force need to be concentrating on taking care of the problems that are rising here in this country as far as being invaded by foreign powers and foreign armies, such as the illegals and the Muslims. And they shouldn't be spread out around the world. Major problem with our military right now is with the NATO contract and the UN. We have got to pull out of both the UN and NATO.
Okay. Makes sense. You kind of hit on this previously. How do you handle immigration and border security? You mentioned the Air Force, possibly, in the military. Would you use our armed forces to secure the border?
Right now, we have manpower and the money to completely secure our border using the National Guard.
Okay.
With our Army and the Air Force as a backup, held in reserve. The National Guard, that was their initial purpose, was to secure the border and keep the border secure. Now, as far as the illegals go, we have got two means of dealing with that problem. One is capture and deport or evict. The other one is to go after people that employ them and people that sell to them, like landlords, stores, and people like. We eliminate their ability to get benefits, such as jobs, food, stuff like that, and they're not going to want to stay here.
Right, that makes sense. This is a question that relates to some of what's going on in the news right now. How do you perceive the issues of race and discrimination in America? Do we still have problems with race and racism?
Well, prior to Obama taking office, we had problems, but we could handle them with a little more time, a little more effort. We could solve our racial problems. Now that Obama's got in office and he's been throwing the race card around like crazy, and Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and the rest of them, for Winfrey for another one, that now we got more problems than we had before.
Okay. Do you have anything you would specifically do or encourage to help solve the issues of race and racism?
Well, the one thing I've really enjoyed seeing over the years is I was raised in a segregated society.
Okay.
And the one thing that, it really tickles me pink is to see interracial marriages and children by more than interracial children. That is, in my way of thinking, that is probably the best way to eliminate racism in this country is if everybody marries some out of their own race, and we have a bunch of interracial children.
That makes sense. Another question. What role, this is a different topic here. What role does the federal government play in healthcare? Should it play any role in healthcare?
The federal if we look at the VA, it's a perfect example of why we should not, and will not have the federal government at any aspect of human health care.
Okay.
They've made a total debacle of veterans' health care. I can't get treatment for my combat injuries because every time I go to get treatment for my combat injuries, my doctors act like I'm trying to get more out of the government than what I deserve, and all I want is treatment for my combat injuries.
Right. And you deserve that because you definitely risked your life.
Well, and they're not doing it to me; they're doing it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And by removing the government out of the role of providers and put them back in the role of the paying, like with Social Security, then a lot of those problems are eliminated.
Okay.
But definitely the government has no business providing health care for anybody.
Okay. Next question. What priority would you give to repair of infrastructure? What is the role of the federal government in maintaining infrastructure?
The federal government has no role. That is a state issue and should be taken care of by the states. The problem with infrastructure right now is the federal government has become such a big leech off of the states that the states don't have money to pay for infrastructure like bridges and roads and stuff like that. Because all our money is going to the feds. And then they expect the feds to funnel some of this money back down again. Well, when it comes time to funnel the money back down again, the members of the Congress got all their pork going, and it goes everywhere else where it's supposed to go.
Right. So you'd be more for doing away with the federal funding and having it be more state local. Yeah.
Well, the way the Constitution's written, the federal government is to be in support of the states and not supposed to rule over the states or tell the states how to do what and how, when and where.
Okay.
They're supposed to be in support of the states, and it's not the way it is.
Okay. Another question. Where do you stand on personal privacy and the need to protect our nation from terrorists? More along the lines of NSA, Patriot Act, wiretapping, just along those lines. What's the role of government in keeping us safe, but also protecting our rights?
All that stuff is illegal. It's all unconstitutional. The warrantless wiretaps, the warrantless searches, all that is unconstitutional. We have two weapons, two very good weapons that we can use against the terrorists. Number one is the Second Amendment.
Okay.
That's the biggie.
Okay.
The other one is the First Amendment, which is the church.
Okay.
If the church would get up out of the pews and go do what the Lord tells them to do, then we wouldn't have a problem with terrorism because the Lord would take care of them because they'd become saved and they wouldn't be terrorists.
Okay. So is there any role for government as far as preventing like a 9/11 or a Boston bombing?
Well, that's where the Navy and the Marines come in. The Navy and the Marines can best protect us against future attacks. The other thing is, like I said, back when I was in the military, I could board a plane with my 38, my 45, and nobody said anything.
Okay.
Today, you've got to go through screening. All the screening does is help the terrorists. Okay. It don't make our airways any more safe or secure as when they were before they installed all this the stupid rules and regulations about being armed on an airplane. Okay.
Another question.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, there was a time in this country when people were not afraid to fly. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever hijacked an airplane. The reason why is because everybody else on the airplane had a weapon.
Okay. See the reason there.
And the terrorists are basically cowards. Every time they've hit an airplane, it's when people were unarmed and were unable to defend themselves. The Boston bombing and the bombing in Manhattan, those were targets because people were unarmed, and the terrorists could go in, do what they wanted to, and not have to worry about getting shot.
Another question. What role will faith, religion, spirituality, whatever, play in your life, and what type of role would it play for you as a president?
Well, I need to make one thing perfectly clear, okay? As a constitutional conservative, I protect the Constitution. I live by the Constitution. As a religious person, I also live by God's laws, and God's laws match up with the Constitution perfectly. I cannot tell other people exactly how they're going to worship God or when they're going to worship God or anything like that. All I can do is abide by the First Amendment. Now, I can make suggestions, but nobody has to follow them.
Okay. Sounds good. You're going to have to do a little forecasting now. Be a political forecaster. Predict two major problems facing our country in the future that no one else is talking about. Can you see anything kind of over the horizon?
If we don't do something fast, we're going to have a very big problem with the Muslims.
Okay.
They are building up their military forces here in this country. The FBI has identified 23 different compounds within our borders where they're actively training. I know of another possibly 20 that the FBI haven't identified, but they're out there. The other one is with the drug cartels and illegal immigration. The drug cartels, we're talking not just drugs, we're talking slavery. The sex slave market is booming because this is all being imported across our southern border. Okay.
Just so you know, we're coming down on 8 minutes left. It's kind of gone by fast, so there's only a few more questions. What are your weaknesses, and what would you do to make up for your weaknesses? Do you have any maybe areas where you would need to bring in an advisor or help? And we're all humans. We all have areas we're not so strong in. Can you maybe give one or two of yours?
Well, I wouldn't exactly call it a weakness. I'd call it more of a strength because I would have to rely more on the United States Congress than any other president as far as legislative matters.
Okay.
I know a lot about how the Congress works and stuff like that, but I will still need a lot of help from the different congressmen, all sides of the aisle. Republican, Democrat, and Independent.
Okay. Are there any other issues you wanted to discuss? We have 7 minutes.
Not really. I think we pretty much covered.
Okay. I'll give you 2 minutes then. Do you have any closing remarks to tell us maybe why we should vote for you? Kind of picturing yourself at the end of the debate. The candidates have debated, and now the moderator says, "Hey, you got 2 minutes to tell us why we should vote for you. So why should we vote for you?"
Well, we've never had a Marine as the United States president before, and I bring something very special to the table.
Okay.
And it's called I forget what it's called. Anyways, to put it very frank and simple, I will be working for the American people, not for special interests, not money people. And right now, that is what we need in Washington. We need somebody that's going to stand up for the American people and put the Congress in their place and put the special money people in their place.
Okay. Sounds good. That's the end of the interview. Thanks for participating in it, and I'd like to thank everybody else who's listening. Be sure to check back in the future for more interviews. This has been Jim Hayden that I've interviewed, and he's running for the Constitution Party nomination. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye.